Hey Bob, can you hear me okay? That's alright, trolls are welcome. Just wait for a few more people to arrive. Evening Michael. How's the Negroni going down? Hey guys, thanks for joining. We'll just wait for a few more people, then I'm going to kick off. Right, I'm going to open a beer because I think this one's going to need a beer actually. Might have bitten off more than I can chew, but we'll see where we get to on this one. Cheers everyone, happy weekend. Yeah, good to hear. The XG firewall, I really like it. I probably will do some videos on pfSense and OpenSense at a later date. But I've been using XG for a while now, and it's been rock solid. I also use it in high availability mode because I've got two Proxmox nodes, and that allows me to hopefully tinker with my Homelab. And if I break something, it will fail over to the other node, and the family should still have internet, which keeps me out of hot water, so that's good. Good question, Bob. I'm keen to avoid any fanboyism, but I really like Sophos XG. Now, people will say it's not open source, and that's a valid point. My argument to that is always, do people go and check their open source? Do you even have the skills to go and check that? I would say that back in my consulting days, I saw a lot of the big names in the industry using Sophos XG, as well as things like Palo Alto, Cisco's, etc. So they do work, they are good, but yeah, they're not open source. I think in the Homelab community, you're probably going to do really well with OpenSense or pfSense. Seems to be most of the Homelab community go with those. Or, of course, you could buy off the shelf with the Unifies as well. I used to have a Unify. It was pretty good, but there were some core things for me that didn't work. Maybe I had a defective unit. But some of the core features as well, back in the day, you didn't have things like WireGuard integration, which was annoying. But equally, again, it's not open source, so some people might not like that. Plus, I got tired of every time there was an update, it used to break my network. So I kind of moved away from it. I do still use a Unify switch, Unify PoE cameras, Unify access points, and to be fair, they've been rock solid. So I think they do have some really good products in some areas. I don't think their gateway's as good as it should be. Yeah, so I use the Unify AP. I use the AC Pro and the new Wi-Fi 6 one. I can't remember the name of it, but the Wi-Fi 6 one, and both have been pretty solid. All right, guys. Well, hey to everyone who's just joined. I'm going to make a bit of a intro here in terms of what I've done. So the aim of this video, this live stream, is to upgrade my Proxmox. I'm currently on 7.4, as you can see here. Let me try and zoom in. Is that going to help a bit more? I'm on 7.4. You might notice something a bit different about this. I've actually spun this up as a VM inside Proxmox, just because I wanted to go through the installation steps first in a VM, because I haven't actually done this on my cluster first. So I wanted to make sure that I understood the steps to upgrade. I've done it in a VM, and hopefully then I've got a bit of confidence doing it on my main cluster. I'm going to do it on my sort of smaller node within my cluster. It's kind of my backup node, as it were. Just in case it knocks anything off, most of my stuff runs off my Dell, which is kind of like, I run like a big little cluster, if that makes sense. So the Dell does kind of all the heavy lifting, and then if things fail, it will spin it up on the smaller node. Let me just see if I can drag that over so you know what the hell I'm talking about. I learned from the last stream to have most of my stuff on a different screen and then bring it over as and when required. Yeah, so if you can see, let me just see what you're seeing. Yeah, let me just blow that up. So here you can see my actual cluster. It's made up of my Proxmox Asus node. So this is just a really old workstation that I've got. It's only, I think it's basically, yeah, it's 8 core. It's actually a 4 core hyperthread. It's just an old E3 1270, so I think it's the equivalent of a 6th gen Intel. So yeah, it's a good 5 or 6 years old. Some good uptime there, 103 days, proud of that. You can see I'm running a backup Pi-hole as an LXC. That's a Proxmox container or a Linux container, as opposed to being in a VM. A couple of my Kubernetes modules are on here, and my passive firewall is on here. So this is my backup redundant firewall. Now, my main system, as I mentioned, is this Dell one here, and this one has 40 cores, so a lot more horsepower on this one. This does most of the heavy lifting in my cluster. Again, sort of only 128 gigs, but that's more than enough for what I'm using. But to do this upgrade, you'll see that both my nodes are running 7.4.3. This is the first one where dark mode was introduced. I think it came out in sort of March time. And I've not done any distribution upgrades since then. I've just been running the standard upgrade security updates. So rather than mess this up, I wanted to do this in a VM first. So I've actually created a VM and installed Proxmox inside Proxmox. I know that's getting a bit Inception-like. But if we go back here, this is that Proxmox VM that I just showed you. So this is where I'm going to do the upgrade first, just to check that it works. But I'm also going to show you, if you look at the instructions, it tells you to run. Let me find the command. There's basically a command it tells you to run, which will test whether it thinks the upgrade is going to work. I think it's something like PV7 to 8 or something. Let me just check. I'm just flashing up the upgrade instructions here. So yeah, sorry, that's probably tiny for you guys. Yeah, so here it's saying to use this script. So I'm going to be running this script. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now because I've no idea how long this is going to take. So let me just jump in. Sorry, I got 1,000 windows here. No, that's not the right one. Yeah, so if I go in here, I should be able to jump into the shell and just paste this in. And let's see what happens. Okay, that's good. What have I missed? Right. Can't see what's wrong with that. Let me double check. Good start, eh? See, this is why I knew I shouldn't have done this live. Makes me look like an idiot. Maybe it's the Where are you going again? Yeah. You alright? Sorry, someone just jumped in the room then. Let me check. That says it's in 7.4. Is that the issue? No, I'm in 7.4. Yeah, you're definitely right there, Bobby. Let me do a Google. Why is this not working? So anyway, while I fiddle away with this in the background, how's everyone getting on with the videos? How far have you got to? Any improvements as well, that would be greatly appreciated. Hopefully some of the newer videos are a little bit better. Now I've got my camera. Now I've tried to sort out my audio a bit more. And I've sat down to learn a bit more about editing in DaVinci. Hopefully they're a little bit better. Right, I'm just going to upgrade, see what that does. Wish there was a text-to-speech and I could put some headphones on and hear what you guys are writing rather than having to keep turning my head all the time. Yeah, thanks, Bob. I hope that was the case. No, I don't have that, Eunice. I've never used that before, actually. Not even sure. I've heard of Unbound. I don't know what Safe Search is. I just tend to use the... Yes. I guess, does it filter your searches? I'll have to look that one up. Yeah, you're right, Bob. Bad idea. Right, I might as well, I guess, update this as well, because I specifically downloaded the same ISO version, and if this is the same version, it might have the same problems, so... Nope, that seems to... must have had all the updates baked into the ISO. So that's good. Maybe I can do it in here then. No! Oh dear. What is going on? Right. Oops. What is going on? Right. Let me go back to the instructions. Ah, there we go. That looks a bit better. If I do suddenly go offline, it's probably because I've broken my network, so... Okay, 400 megs. That's gonna take me some time. I don't have the fastest internet over here. So yeah, the other thing I'm going to upgrade tonight, hopefully, is I'll do Proxmox first, and then I'll give you a bit of a kind of a... I've already shown Kubernetes a little bit before, but you'll see a bit more tonight because I'm going to actually upgrade Rancher, which is a bit like Portainer is to Docker, Rancher is to Kubernetes. So it's noob friendly, but equally it's kind of enterprise grade. So kind of scratches both itches in that sense. And I pretty much use the whole Rancher stack. So I use K3S, which is developed by Rancher, which is a single binary Kubernetes distribution. I use Rancher Dashboard to manage it. I use Longhorn, which you can see the cow theme here, is the storage solution I use for Kubernetes. So because I've got, as you can see on screen, sort of 1, 2, 5 Kubernetes nodes and 3 Longhorn nodes, it means that any single one of these machines can fail. and the containers will fail over and the storage will fail over. So I should always have a copy of my pods and my data, and I shouldn't incur any service disruption, especially as well because my firewalls will fail over, so all of that routing should still work. And so Longhorn is developed by Rancher, and then the last bit of the puzzle, which is my GitOps setup. So all of my infrastructure basically runs from code inside Kubernetes. And for that I use Fleet, which is another Rancher product. A lot of people will use Argo CD or Flux, and you'll see that used a lot in the Homelab community. Nothing against those. I see those at work used, so I know they're really good tools. I just went with Fleet because I thought I'm all in on Rancher, so I might as well use their solution. And it's got all of the features that I need. I'm a novice in terms of what I require for the GitOps, so it does absolutely what I need. There might be more exotic things down the line that it doesn't support, but again, Fleet is evolving, so I expect it to have feature parity with some of the more established players, especially if they're looking to sort of gain a market presence. Right, that looks like it's finished. Can I do this now? Hooray. Oh, this looks fun. 2 warnings. Let's see what that says. Okay. So it doesn't like the fact that I've got 5 VMs running. I can see why, that makes sense. Where's the other warning? Oh yeah, it's just saying that my cluster is less than the 3 quorum providing nodes, so they want you to have a cluster with 3 nodes in. I think that's, don't quote me on this, but again, it's a bit like with Kubernetes, it's the way it passes data between the nodes. It needs 3 to basically make a consensus and have a decision on which is right. Otherwise, if you've only got 2, it's kind of like they're both battling each other. So let's go and shut down these 5 VMs. It's actually going to be fun. My firewall's going to start screaming. Hey, yeah, sorry, I'm updating Proxmox because in the video tutorial I showed you guys, we were using version, I think, 7.4 at the time, and since then version 8 has come out, so I felt a bit bad leaving you guys there, and also I'm on 7.4 myself, so I want to move up to 8. It's been out a few weeks. There don't seem to be any major breaks. Haven't seen any issues, so I thought it's a good idea to get everybody up to 8, and especially if people are now looking and seeing my videos, they're probably going to download the latest ISO and they're going to be on version 8. I'm still going to be pushing out videos on version 7.4, and I guess as time goes on, there's going to be feature gaps between the two. The videos might not line up as well, so I just want to make sure I'm on the latest version and all of my content is going to be on the latest version, so there's a better chance that you can follow the videos without any breaking changes. Right, so let's shut down my backup firewall. Actually, wait there. I'm going to make sure I want this to start at the boot. I'm just thinking if I want this to start at boot or not. No, I'm going to leave that one off for now. But I'm going to make sure that these are yes. Kubernetes is yes, yes. And my Pi-hole will. Okay, great. So I'm going to shut these down. Fingers crossed I stay online. Cheers if I don't. Shut down. This is going to be interesting because my My Kubernetes cluster is going to be crying now. Let me see if I can get that up for you guys. Right, so that's quite interesting. Let me just check. Am I still online? I think so. That's good. So you can now see that. Is there anything sensitive on there? I don't think so. I just got an email saying that my secondary node has gone down. So that's right. What's happening here? It didn't like shutting down Longhorn. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, I know what's happened here. It's because my my traffic proxy, I put everything through my traffic proxy. I can now no longer resolve proxmox.jim's garage because it needs to fail over to my other traffic instance on my other node and then update, but I should be able to go over and use the IP address. So let me just check that out. If I can remember what it was. Bingo. Yeah, excellent. So, as I just said, it hasn't quite failed over yet. But it should do soon. And then everything should be back up and running with my URL. But for now, I'll just have to do it this way. And where was I? Yeah, so if I go into... So, this is Rancher, like I said. It's a bit like Portainer. Let me just go into here. So you can see here, this is my cluster. You can see that I do have 8 nodes, but now I only have 5 because those 3 have been shut down, which is what we expect, right? I've just turned them off, so hopefully, I don't know why it's not shutting down. Let's see what's going on here. Oh well, this is fun. Yeah. It's probably because it was trying to do something maybe with the... Maybe running some backup, waiting for process Longhorn manager. It might be because I'm using DNS names, and because I shut down traffic momentarily, it couldn't resolve it during the shutdown. Maybe. Right, let's flip back to... Oh no, we can't go there. Let's flip back to the VM installation of Proxmox, which is here. If we do PV 728, we're not upgrade, update, just upgrade. So why doesn't that work on the crazy? Those beeps in the background are from my phone just telling me that things are offline. Right. I'm just going to check the sources list now. Okay, good. So we need to now update these. To be Bookworm, which is the new version of Debian. And then hopefully we can run the upgrade. So that should now go and update. Right, and then this should do it. That looks right. 558 megs, 885 megs of disk space. Yeah, let's go for it. Okay, so this should hey, and look, everything's green again. It's failed over. Let me just check. Nothing incriminating on there. Is that in focus, guys? No, that's terrible. Yeah, that is. So you can see now everything's back up and running. My cluster has automatically failed over. Excellent. So I'm feeling brave. Does the DNS name now work? So does Proxmox Jim's Garage work? Yeah, there we go. Everything's working. I wasn't lying. Everything's shut down on here. The Proxmox name's resolved because traffic has failed over to my other node and my other firewall and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's going well, guys. And hopefully further down the road, my videos are going to show you how to create a second firewall, how to do a multi-node Proxmox cluster, and we'll also get onto Kubernetes if you want to come down that route with me. I will still be focusing heavily on Docker, just because I know for most people, Docker is the way to go. It's kind of the right balance between getting enough containers and not having to be a sysadmin. And you might notice here, I still actually run a few things on Docker myself. Those are mainly things that require device pass-through. So you'll see here, I've got a couple of things pass through and a USB device. This Docker VM, the USB device is passing through a Zigbee, a combi Zigbee stick. So here's my light switch for my lights, and various other Zigbee things around the house. And the two the two PCI devices here are actually a Coral AI, which, if you're not familiar, is an AI chip made by Google. Unfortunately, it's kind of gone the way of the Raspberry Pi. You just can't get them for love nor money, but they weren't expensive back in the day. And hopefully they'll ramp up production. But what that gives you is object-based AI detection. So it's used for my CCTV. So what it can actually do is detect objects within my CCTV feed, because I was getting sick and tired of things like my Ring doorbell, which is basically a dumb camera. Anytime the wind blows or a leaf moves on the driveway, it'll want to give me a notification. Now, because it's so noisy, I just end up turning it off when actually I might want to know about it. So using the Coral AI with Frigate, which is kind of like a Docker container I run. Well, I run it in. I run that in Docker. That enables me to do object-based detection, so I can detect whether it's a person, and obviously if it's a person on my driveway, I want to know about it. But I don't care if it's a cat or a dog or a bird or something like that. Maybe a dog I would, but you get the idea. Right, let's jump back to this here. Back into the VM now, Proxmox. What's going on here? This is saying news. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. I can't even see a scroll bar. Press Q to quit. Does that mean quit reading it, or does that mean quit the upgrade process? Let me scroll back up. What the hell's going on here? Right, so this is, it says it's news, so I'm hoping I can quit and it's not going to break something. No, excellent. So when you come to do the upgrade, you can press Q. Keyboard layout, yeah, UK. Configuration file, modified, would you like to do? I want to keep my current. The default is no, which is keep my current. Fine, that's what we want to do. Services installed, which need to be restarted. Restart during the package upgrades without asking. Yep. Okay. So far, so good, guys. Anyone got any questions while we go through this? Okay, we're at 46%. This is going well, but I'm glad I put it into a VM just to check. I think as soon as this completes, I'm then going to spin it up on my Asus node. Not sure if there's a lag in the chat there, Bob. But I think everything's up and running now. The update seems to be going all right. Yeah, you're probably right, Michael. Probably should have given this VM a few more cores. It might have been quicker. I think that was just asking if I wanted to keep the SSH config. I just hit yes. It doesn't really matter on this one because it's a VM. But obviously when I come to install it on mine, I want to keep it because I've got all of my SSH keys stored. And I don't want to lose those, otherwise I've got to re-download them all. LVM conf, yes, I think that's the Linux virtual machine. I want to keep that, or is it the Linux volume manager? I can't remember, but I'm going to keep that. Oh, this looks good. Setting up cluster version 8. No errors so far. Setting up the grub. Upgrading all the PV containers, the HA monitor. Yep, feeling moderately confident here. The fun part is going to be when I upgrade my main node, which I probably won't do tonight on this video, just because it will probably knock the stream off, because there will be, just by the nature of how it works, that the firewall failover, there has to be a little blip in connection. And I know currently my internet's running through my Dell, so I don't want to knock the stream off. But if I can get it working on one node, I know that I can then do it on my other node when I finish the stream. Okay, that seems to have finished. I wonder if I just refresh the page, or I suspect I need to do a reboot. Way, there we go, Proxmox version 8. Okay, probably worth doing a reboot. Well, that's good. Let's now just double check this boots back up okay. And provided it does, I'm going to have a sip of beer and crack on with updating my smaller node. Let's see what happens. What version of Proxmox are you guys on? Are you already on 8, or are you running a different hypervisor? Okay, excellent. Everything looks like we're good to go. Shouldn't be any updates. No, that's right. Perfect. Okay. Right. Here goes. Oh dear. Right, we want to jump into here. Let me just, I think it's etc list sources. Let's get rid of all this. I think there is a way to select all, but I can never remember it. I suppose you could just recreate the file. Right. Let's paste this in. Let's save that. Let's update. Yeah, see how I get on first there, Michael, eh? What's going on? I wonder if this is not using my pie hole that's on my cluster, and it was actually using the pie hole in the LXC, which I turned off. That will be interesting. Yeah, it can't resolve it. I suspect that's what's happened. Let me cancel that and just check. Well, I could change the name servers, or I'm just going to start this up again and rerun that command. I'm not precious about this LXC, it's backed up anyway, and I'll shut it down before I do the dist upgrade. So that should be back up and running. Yep, give it a few more seconds. Let's try running that command again. Yee, there we go. I've done this far too many times, I know exactly what's going on. Right, so that's done. I can't shut down the LXC again because it needs to actually pull those downloads. So we should just be able to do apt dist upgrade, and it should come up with the 800 odd megs. Yep. Right, we're in. Let's buckle up. Here we go. But I mean, that script was really cool. All it said was basically you have your VMs turned on, so turn them off and we're fine. And I'm really happy that even though I test my failover quite regularly, well, I used to, I'll probably do it now every couple of months. I'm glad to see that it worked whilst I'm live on stream, and didn't embarrass myself. So hopefully when I show you guys later tutorials, you'll have a bit more confidence that I'm not going to break your network. So if we just hop over to Rancher, again, you can still see these nodes aren't working. They're offline. We've just shut them down. But actually, all of my deployments. Let me refresh that. I did say all of my deployments. Why is this now not working? Let me think. Why is that not working now? It's a good question. I'll have to think about that. But my cluster's working, just for some reason Rancher isn't. I'll sort that out in a minute. This was, we could just press Q. Yeah. We want to keep that. Yeah, you can restart. Now, I think I might know why this is, and it's because I did something a bit funky recently with my traffic. So I used to run 2 traffics. I used to have one proxy just for internal services, and then I used to have one proxy for my external services. Now, I wanted to kind of rejig that and think about doing it with a single proxy. So I decided to do add additional entry points to my services, and stupidly I put the entry points the wrong way round. So I put my 80 in port 443 for my outward facing services and changed it to 81 and 444 or something like that for my internal. And to get it to still work, I had to do a blanket NAT rule internally, like a loop back, and I probably sent it to the wrong port and not changed it. And changing and jumping over the firewalls might have knocked that out. In the future, I'm going to leave everything internal on ports 80 and 443, so it will work as expected. And anything that's coming or exposed to the internet, because you can choose in your firewall the NAT service, so you can change the service port. I'm just going to do it on there because basically anything I expose, there's only a couple of ports really, so it's pretty straightforward. I think that'll be much more manageable. Right, so far this is going well, and we're still connected using my Proxmox, so my traffic at least is up and running and working, my Pi-hole's up and running and working, everything seems to have failed over still. This update is taking a long time though. I have to get a top up. How are those Negronis going down, Michael? Good question, Bob. Much like at work, not to my knowledge. I'm hoping that nobody would care enough to do it. There's nothing exciting on my network. I try to do the best I can with multiple layers of security and controls and isolation, segmentation, all those sorts of things. I do get quite a few CrowdSec alerts and alerts in my firewall, but I've never ever seen kind of a ransomware attack or anything that's going to be in your face. I haven't ever seen one of those on my network, other than the ones I've done myself in a controlled environment just to sort of see what happens and learn and play. So no, I don't think so, but please don't take that as an open invite, because anything can get hacked given enough time. Traffic easier than Nginx proxy? Yes, I do find traffic easier. I think it's mainly because traffic's kind of it's predominantly a container first proxy, so it was specifically designed to operate as a container in a container environment. And I just love things like the traffic dashboard, which just dynamically updates. You can just add new containers, spin them up, and it will automatically get picked up. So if you want to deploy a new subdomain, for example, a new port, etc., it's just going to dynamically update. You don't have to restart the traffic proxy or any of that stuff. Whereas I think back in the day using Nginx, each time you made a configuration change, you had to restart the proxy. Maybe that's changed now, but I don't think it has. Correct me if I'm wrong. So when I'm using obviously things like Kubernetes, you've just seen now in real time my my whole network just fail over in real time. This stream has kept going. there was a minor blip with the Pi-hole here, but I think that was just because this node isn't set up to use the other Pi-hole. But other than that, everything's been rock solid. I've been able to do a live stream and have a failover. All my services are up and running. So we're getting towards the end of this, and hopefully I'll be able to reboot this node, and then restart all my VMs, restart the missing cluster nodes in my Kubernetes service, in my Kubernetes cluster, and we should be back up and running. Windows 95. Nice, I like it. Yeah, I've seen ransomware outbreaks in big enterprise. It's probably a security practitioner's nightmare. Yeah, if it goes wrong as well. I mean, you could literally go out of business. I'm talking things like ransomware's not just your old school kind of encrypt your data, give us some money. Typically now it's kind of threefold. It's we're going to encrypt your data and ask you to pay a ransom. They very likely, or in a significant number of cases, actually exfiltrated your data so they have a copy of it. And they might, even if it's like PII data, personally identifiable information, they might start contacting the people that they have the data and start blackmailing them and telling them that they've got your data and they got it from your company. And yeah, there's no way you can kind of keep it quiet. It's really bad. And often that ransomware now, it's kind of multi-flavored now, so it won't just be a piece of ransomware. They'll be putting botnets on, backdoors, all that kind of stuff. There'll be multiple payloads within one infection, basically. Okay, I'm going to be brave and refresh this. I wonder what it will actually say, because one of my nodes is on 7 and one is now on 8. That's interesting. It still says 7 here. So can I go on summary here? Does it tell you that? Yeah, 7.4 there and 8.0 here. That's interesting. But it reports the oldest version, I guess, at the top. Interesting. Right, so I don't think it was yeah, it was Bitwarden. Yes, you're right. Yeah, Bitwarden had a big breach, and I use VaultWarden, which is an open source based off Bitwarden. So I was a bit worried at the time, sort of what's going off. But at least kind of everything's self-hosted for me, and that is obviously not exposed to the internet. So from an attack surface, I felt as though I was shielded from it. I don't really see how it could have been exploited. I think it was very much the cloud-hosted service that was breached and not the self-hosted versions. Right, so what's pretty amazing is it didn't require a reboot to update Linux and update Proxmox, and I've still got my 103 days of uptime. It hasn't rebooted. I think it's probably a good idea to go and restart this node, and hopefully when it restarts it'll bring up all of those other nodes, and then we'll be in a good spot. So fingers crossed this just reboots the Proxmox and not the Dell, otherwise it's been nice talking to you. But Proxmox Asus, do I want to be reboot? Yes. So hopefully that'll come up in a few minutes. Might hear a little beep from the box. That would be reassuring. It might do, Michael. But I definitely set up Proxmox on my Dell first. But maybe when I created the cluster, I told it that my Asus was kind of the master. I don't know. Oh, I can hear a few BIOS beeps. Now, when I first started using it, I was worried. I think there is something wrong with that motherboard because it just makes it just makes all of those beeps, but it still then boots. Famous last words, I know. But we should be back up and running. Oh, here we go. This is looking good. Those nodes have just come back online, 3, 5, and 2. So if we go into here, hey, this is now working again. Yes, Rancher's back up. Let's go to the cluster. Let's check the nodes. Excellent, that's all spinning back up. These, what will be quite interesting is if we go in here and look at some of the pods that are running. So pods are basically containers, but a pod can have multiple containers inside. These are all now spinning back up. Restarted a few seconds ago. That's all good. Might not have any metrics just because it's just booted up. What's interesting here is all my videos so far have been using Docker, but when we get into Kubernetes, we'll be using one of the competitors to Docker, which is Containerd. There's also Podman, which you might have heard of, but for Kubernetes we're using Containerd. And I think I'm probably right in saying that Containerd is starting to win the battle over Docker. So I'm interested to see sort of how that plays out. There's still definitely a place for Docker. Oh, everything's sort of... Oh, that was useless. Everything's come back up again and is working. Up, 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 up. I'll have a video on setting up Gotify and Gmail integrations as well coming up, which is really useful for Homelabing. So where were we? I can probably close that down and go back to here. Brilliant, so all this is back up and running. Let's get my firewall back up and running. Then I should get a notification saying that that's all good. So just for note as well, I know when I said to create Sophos XG, I think the max is... Probably going to get this wrong and someone's going to kill me in the comments. I think it was 4 cores and 6 gigs of RAM. But I mean, I'm using 2 cores and 4 gigs, and I'm using... that's not going to show you. I don't think I can show you in here, but you're just going to have to trust me. I use a 10 gig networking card on here. If I do list all my PCI devices, my yeah, there, my Mellanox card, which is my 10 gig card, that's actually the one that I'm using. So I'm getting full 10 gig speeds. I'm only using 2 cores on the Sophos XG and 4 gigs of RAM, and it's able to handle all of that. So Sophos XG is back up. My phone's just flashed up to say that the backup firewall has come back online. So in theory, I could shut this one down and everything would fail back over to this cluster. Like I say, I'm not going to do that because there will be a blip when I turn off my active firewall and it fails over, and that will probably knock the stream off. But yeah, great. It only took an hour, but we upgraded, and I think the key thing is we did it in a safe fashion. So tested it on the VM first, ran the script first to make sure there weren't any issues. We shut down the VMs. We did the install, did the upgrade, confirmed it worked. We then rebooted the node. These were automatically set to come back online, and everything's up and running. And from what I can tell, even with this on the oldest, on an older, the last version of version 7, and this on the newest version of 8, everything seems to be working. So brilliant. I can read instructions, but hopefully you guys should have a bit of confidence that you can replicate these steps and you should be in a good position. I would recommend absolutely backing up your VMs before. Now, I didn't do that because I do nightly snapshots anyway, automated through Proxmox backup server, which you can actually see here is a mounted storage. Now, it's a bit funny. It doesn't show proper storage and things, and I think that's because it might not be able to display SMB shares, because my Proxmox backup server is actually using my TrueNAS for its storage, and I think there's possibly something it doesn't read properly, but every night my VMs are backed up to this, so worst comes to worst, I'd have just backed up from last night if this all went wrong. And as you can see on here, my Sophos XG, it has a backup once a week that I've configured, and I think I showed you how to do that in the installation video. Haven't changed my firewall in probably a couple of weeks or whatever, so the backup I've got is still valid. Plus this is only one, and as long as I've got my active, it's going to pull that config over again if I add it as the passive node within that high availability cluster. And all of these Kubernetes nodes are effectively ephemeral. I could delete these, create a new node, add it to my cluster, and everything would just build on top of it. So what's really cool is if I wanted to get a third PC, a third physical device, I could then just create another few VMs and just go into my nodes here and just add a node to this, and it would automatically load balance everything, put all the things that it needed to onto that, and it would just be part of my cluster, and then I'd have even greater reliability. Sorry Bob, will it work with Proton Mail? Yeah, it should do, because the way I've got this set up is just to use SMTP, and I think Proton Mail gives you the SMTP settings. So basically any mail provider that gives you SMTP, the notification system that I've got will work for you. Plus, you could technically just use Gotify. There's an Android app for it, and I think there's an iOS, don't quote me on that, but there's definitely an Android app for it. And you could expose that to the internet if you wanted to, or you could do what I do and just have a split tunnel VPN with WireGuard on all the time, and then anything that's routed to a local IP address is just routed over the VPN. So things like Gotify will always sync to my phone, and I'll get all of those notifications, but it won't be exposed to the internet, or at least not exposed publicly. You'd need to be on my WireGuard. Perfect. Okay, so that concludes the Proxmox. So thanks for staying with me. What am I going to do next? Am I going to do my Longhorn, or am I going to do Rancher? And this is the bit that is worrying me slightly more. I'm probably going to do Longhorn, which is my storage. So let me just check. Is that something I can share without breaking anything? Yeah, this all looks fine. So on screen now is Longhorn, and this basically is think of these. These are those pods that I showed, and those are all kind of running a container. Now, each of these basically, because those containers can basically be on any of the two nodes I've got. I don't really know which one it's going to be on. It just load balances them. Obviously, it can't store its data locally. Like in all of our Docker compose files, we're currently mapping those to like /home/docker/ and then the application name. But you can't do that in a cluster because you've got lots of VMs all with their own paths. So the data can't be stored on the node, the worker node itself. It has to be stored on Longhorn. Now, here you can see that I've got an Nginx container, and that's on there. So you can see that this is actually being accessed by K3S04, which again is a VM, my worker node, which is on my Dell, which I said does all of the heavy lifting. And at the moment, I basically have it set up so that the Dell is my primary because it's got far more compute power. But if this were to fail, I shut down the Dell, that would change to K3S05, which, as you can see on here, K3S05 is on my Asus, not my Dell. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, Longhorn is blinding. I don't know why they don't do a dark mode. They do a dark mode for Rancher. They do a dark mode for Fleet, which is basically integrated into Rancher anyway. You can see Fleet here. It's continuous delivery. Oh, I've got one thing not working. What's that? Oh, Vault Warden's not up. That's no good. Maybe something broke when it didn't fail over properly. But I can go and fix that and redeploy it later. But yeah, that's got a dark mode, so I don't know why Longhorn doesn't. Maybe if I move up to version 1.5, I'm version 1.4, that'll fix it. Now, the reason I want to go to 1.5, obviously it's the newest version. I'll take that off for you guys because it's probably blinding you. The reason I want to go up to version 1.5 is because it supports SMB shares now. Now, previously, yeah, you told me a bit more than you did. Previously, I've been doing this through an NFS share, which is fine, but it doesn't have the granular access controls, the ACLs that Samba does. So I want to move it to use my proper TrueNAS Samba share, which has all my backup scripts, so things like you've seen with the Arclo and all that stuff. I just can't be bothered to go and set all that up for NFS as well. I know it's easy, but I've got SMB working and it's fine. I just want to use that. So now with 1.5, I can upgrade and I can go and use that. So here goes. Let's upgrade. So I just want to check first because this will really screw me up. So Rancher was backed up. I've got an automatic job to do this on the 5th of July, so 3 days ago. That's fine. I've not really done anything in Rancher to change anything. So I'm not going to do an ad hoc update here. I could if I wanted. You can just hit the create button and create one. Do you know what? Screw it. I will do. What's this? So we'll do before Longhorn update. It's a one-time backup. I'm going to do it unencrypted for the moment. Default storage, that's fine. Yep, there we go. So I created an ad hoc update. Oh, that's good to know, Michael. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, cool. Now we've got that update, it's completed. So let me just pull up the instructions for Longhorn, and I'm using Helm for deploying on K3S for Longhorn. Some of the stuff I use, what do you call them? Like the manifest files. We'll come on to that in later videos if you're not familiar. But those are a bit like the Docker Compose files. They just give you text-based things you can edit and go down, or you can use Helm files, which probably the best analogy is a bit like if you go into Portainer and you've got like the kind of the app store, you can just do those one-click deploys. Helm's a little bit like that. It's basically just predetermined default settings that you can just basically deploy and it'll work. So I'm just firing up the instructions on the other screen, but I think you need to upgrade the manager, and then I think you need to upgrade the engine, or it might be the other way around. I'll have to check on that. So there's the engine. I'm on 1.4. Let's have a look. So it says 1.4.2 to 1.5 is the way to go. Right, so if I head back to here, it says I can just run this Helm command, so let's go for it. So what's really helpful in Rancher, and you can also do this through SSH, and there's a thing called kube control, and you can run this command in there, but Rancher has kube control built in here. So if I do this, it failed to download. Why would it do that? It might be the DNS again, which is causing me bother. Let me just check on my other screen that DNS is available. Or I might actually... let me just... let me just try and SSH in, and this might work. Could have swore I had Helm. Oh no, I've connected to the wrong one. That one doesn't have Helm installed. I think this one does. Let me just double check. Right, okay, this is looking a bit more positive. I think we might even be able to do it through the apps. So here you can see the charts. These are those Helm charts. So I can upgrade here, look, to 1.42. So this might actually be way easier than I thought, because I can just cheat and do it through here. I thought I was going to have to do it all the way through Helm. Let's customize the options before, just so we have a look. We don't actually have to change anything. Keep all those. Keep all those. Keep all those. Next. Clean up, wait, upgrade. Oh, looks fine. If I go to, can I go to the logs? No, I'm just going to leave that for now. So that upgraded. Let's have a look. I wonder if I can refresh this. Hasn't upgraded yet. let's check the services. All namespaces. So cattle is the namespace that Rancher and all of its pieces work in. Again, the cow references. Trying to find where Longhorn is. Maybe we can just put that in. Right, Longhorn. Yeah, so that's still saying it's on 1.4, so why didn't that work? Right, if I don't get this working, I'm probably going to wrap it up because it'll probably get a bit boring for you guys whilst I go and debug all of this stuff. I'll probably have to go back to my original plan, which is doing it through the command line and doing the upgrade that way. Although is that saying my application version is 1.4.2, i.e. it upgraded? I don't know. Or is that saying the most recent version is? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it says that I'm or is that saying the newest? No, this must be right because this is Longhorn. Right, I'm going to have to do a bit more thought around this one, I think. I'm probably going to have to go down the command line for this one. Right, guys, I'm going to have to delve into this a bit more, and it's probably going to be too boring to put on a stream. So I'm going to wrap it there, just because I probably am going to break something and embarrass myself. So just want to say thanks a lot for sticking with me tonight. Thanks for all the questions. I'll give it a couple of minutes just to catch up in case you've got any more questions, but if you don't, I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'll let you know in my Discord if I manage to figure this out. But thanks a ton for staying with me. Really enjoyed tonight. So over to you for any questions. Cool. Okay, guys. Well, I'm out of beer and I need another one if I'm going to be upgrading this all night. Thanks for attending. Great to see you. Have a good rest of the weekend. And I'll see you on the next one, hopefully soon. Take care, everyone.